Hello and welcome to part 2 of our video series on connected Mold-ID. In the last part we covered installation of Docker and Docker Compose under Ubuntu 20.04. In this part we'll cover installation of connected Mold-ID on top of that. Now in order to get started we need to get a few files from the Balluff homepage. To find those we'll need to search for connected Mold-ID and click on the entry for connected Mold-ID. We'll need to scroll down to configuration software and download the attached file here. And we can just open the file. Inside of the file we'll find a folder called 1.0.0 or possibly a different version if you're following this along at a later date. And inside of the folder are 3 different configurations. First up is the default configuration, which assumes the customer is providing his own database, and it's basically a minimal install of connected Mold-ID. The second configuration includes a Postgres database, and the last configuration includes a reverse proxy in addition to the Postgres database. We generally recommend using the variant with reverse proxy for installations at customer locations. That's why we'll be using this variant. We need to extract that folder to a suitable location on our system. This could, for instance, be the home folder. And we'll rename the folder to something we can easily remember later on. So we'll call it CMID for connected Mold-ID. And we'll enter the folder. Now there are a couple of files in this folder that we should edit. The first file we need to look at is the midv_database_password.secret file. This is the password for the root user of the database, and it should be something a lot more secure than the default value, which is why we'll enter a new password here. And we'll save the changes. Just remember to back up this file so you can find it later on as well. Next up, we'll look at the Docker Compose.yaml file. You should always look at Docker Compose files before running them. Just make sure that there's nothing malicious in them. What we want to look at more closely is the database container. It takes care of storing all of our data. The location where it's stored is determined by Docker because we're using a named database volume. However, we could replace this with an absolute path on our system where we want to store our data instead. However, the defaults are fine in this case. So we can close the file and open a terminal in this location using right-click, open in terminal. Now we need to install and launch connected Mold-ID. We can do this with just one command using sudo docker compose up -d. And we need to enter our sudo password again. Now the -d is responsible for launching it in detached mode, which means the system will basically treat it as a service and restart it whenever our machine restarts and stop it whenever we shut down our machine. And in the background it's just downloading all of the containers it needs and starting them. This process might take a few minutes. Alright, the installation of connected Mold-ID is complete and the service has launched. So we can now open up the web interface in our browser by heading over to localhost. Alternatively, you could type in the IP address of the machine that you installed connected Mold-ID on. And we need to log in using the default administrator account. You can find the credentials in the manual. Right, now that we're logged in, we should do a couple of things to improve security. And the first thing we should do is change the default administrator password. We can do this by heading over to the top right, clicking on the user icon and clicking on user management. Then you're going to have to click on the little pencil symbol and edit the password for the admin account. And we can save the changes. It's generally not a good idea to always use the default admin account, so we should add a different account for ourselves. And that's what we'll do now. We'll click on the plus symbol and type in a new username. We'll call this one user. And it's an example user. And he is user. We need to type in a valid email address. And a new password for him. We'll have to re-enter it twice. Alright, next we can determine his role. He can either be a regular user, which can basically only read data, or we can have him be an expert. An expert can also disable molds or write some additional data into the database about molds. Or he can be an administrator who can, in addition to all of the things an expert can do, can manage other users and manage the license installed. Now, for the purpose of this tutorial, we'll make him an administrator as well and save the changes. And now we can just log out and log in with the user we've just created. In this video, we covered the installation of connected Mold-ID and the necessary post-installation steps to ensure a secure system. Thanks for watching.